Price reversal equals a trend line shift plus a directional line shift. Very, very important. So this happens to be that green candle you're looking at. That happens to be the highest closing candle. Mark the low of the highest closing candle. So I need two conditions to be fulfilled here. Right here. Whoops. Too fast. Price reversal, trend line shift plus directional line shift. If it closes below the low of the highest closing candle and the trend line, that's a bona fide change of direction. That's a reversal. Likewise, here's my lowest closing candle right here. Not the lowest candle. That's the lowest candle. Here's the lowest closing candle. If you close below both the high and the lowest closing candle, which you did here, and that trend line, then you have a bona fide change of direction. A reversal, essentially. So that's how we define the reversal. Let's go to a real-time chart and show you exactly what we mean. Here's the dollar-yen chart. I'm going to back up my tool. Okay, as everyone see, this happens to be the lowest closing candle of the move, right? That yellow line is essentially my directional line. Okay, I can back it down. Okay, at the time, here, I'll go back a little further. Okay, see, this is the lowest closing candle of the move. That's the lowest closing candle of the move. So I marked this. We created an indicator to automatically mark the high of the lowest closing candle. Now, you can do this by hand. You don't need the fancy indicator. You can do this by hand. Okay, so that happens to be the lowest closing candle. We've marked the low. Now, this is the new lowest closing candle. It's not going to update until the close of this candle, technically the open of the next candle. So every time we get a new low close, see that was the new low close? On the opening of that next candle, boom, the line moves down. So every time you get a new low close, the line's going to mark the high of the lowest closing candle. If you close above that line, if you close above the high of the lowest closing candle, and you close above the trend line, then you're going to get a reversal, okay? Now, the reversal is really not that big of a deal unless you get it in line with the pattern, okay? And we'll get to pattern first. So right there, that was a significant change of direction right there because it took out, you changed direction and you closed above the trend line. So now it's going to mark the new, it's marking the low of the highest closing candle. Oh, well, now you shift it, you close below that. So once you shift, this is obviously a market where you don't have a lot of pattern to it. You really don't want to be trading this market. All you're seeing is counter trend moves. But that's going to give you the direction. It's going to tell you direction has changed, okay? Now it's moving down. It's marking, this is the dollar-yen daily chart. It's marking that high, the lowest closing candle. So there you had a change in direction. You had what we call a reversal. So this market's just, there's really not a lot of pattern to it. It's just knocking back and forth. But we're marking that high to lowest closing candle. Boom, there's a change of direction. Now that may or may not be significant because you had you do have, this is also happens to be a higher low right there too. It's still a sloppy pattern. But you're getting the hang of it, right? All it's doing is marking the low of the highest closing candle. So that's direction. Direction shifts lower right there. See that? So all we're doing is telling you what direction is. Now, you're not going to trade every change of direction because, you'll catch some big moves along the way, but you'll get chopped up also. You can see how choppy this is. Now you have a pattern. There's a higher low, and there's a second higher low. So once you have that higher low, then you may have something. Once you start making higher highs too, same story. So all I do is I have a tool here, and it's marking the low of the highest closing candle. So I know direction. So as long as price is trading above that yellow line, then direction is up, right? Notice when you got that second higher low here, that pattern, you had a higher low here, then you get that second higher low, and then once you took out that high right there, man, you really accelerated. So that was a good case. Short-term pattern was bullish here. So this is a change of direction you want to know about. Right here. When you close above that, boom, on the opening of the next candle, you're going to shift that line. So direction shifted. Direction is now higher. If you're above the line, direction's higher. So direction's higher in line with the pattern. So that was a pretty good trade right there. So hopefully you're understanding how that line works. Every time, if we make a new low close here on the opening, if on the close today we close lower than that low, then the line's going to shift down. So currently direction's down in the yen. So that's a good thing to have. Raul, you didn't write down the definition. Here, I'll go back. Here's the definition. The low of the highest closing candle in an uptrend, the high of the lowest closing candle in a downtrend. You got to know that. So that's all we're showing you. We're showing you how it's very important to mark that low of the highest closing candle because that's telling you direction. Okay? Direction. All I'm doing is defining direction for you. Once you change direction and you take out a trend line, that's great. And you'll see once you take out that trend line how everything accelerates too. You had a short-term bullish pattern here. You change direction higher. You want to know that. Boom, boom. Now you're cooking with grease there. Currently, though, in dollar yen, direction's down. Still have a bullish pattern, but direction's down. So all I'm doing is I'm not determining where yen's going to go next. I'm not going to guess whether it's going up or down. I'm just telling you that currently on the daily chart, direction is down. So now hopefully this diagram makes a little bit more sense to you, where you could see it closed below the low of the highest closing candle right there, and it closed above the high of that lowest closing candle right there. It took out both the trend line and the direction line. So if you take out both the trend line and the directional line, then you're going to have a reversal. Now, we're only interested in those reversals that are in line with the pattern, okay? So pattern's next. Now, hopefully you know a little bit about direction. If you want to know more about it, Chapter 3 of my last book, Mastering Trade Selection and Management, that defines it, and that'll help you out. So you want to know, we know direction. Now, hopefully you have an idea how to determine direction. Now we need to figure out how to determine price pattern. So price pattern, all we're doing is we're marking the isolated highs on the chart, and we're marking the isolated lows on the chart. And I love this chart because the first time we did a webinar on FX Street, this was the same chart we used, and I had not had to update the chart. Guess what? Price went all the way down here. So it was that simple, knowing that you had a bearish pattern in place. So if you have a long-term bearish pattern in place, you're looking for a change of direction in line with that bearish pattern lower.